Ma'am.
Now, these are not candidates. This is not candidates. This is not a candidate for talking about Project 2025.
That
The candidates? No, not for this. The next Friday they might.
yeah.
Hey, what's going on? How are you? Must be. Man, we tore the mountains up. But everything on the East Coast, we're okay. Except for the housing. The mountains up. West side. Yep. Yes, sir. Thank you for asking. I understand exactly why. There, send you an address. It's 99. Send you 99. Fact, the number on the door and it wasn't registered, so you want to send it to 42. That'll be fine. So you're gonna send me, yep, 42. You turn the little general's little office. You turn it into a storage. Yeah, she's there. Yeah. Yes, you want to do that. You want to do that on Friday?
Can you tell me what this is gonna be streamed at so I can send this to someone? I'll tell them where.
I'll get it tomorrow.
On my personal page and also Awesome Radio. I shared it on
Facebook page.
and Awesome Radio YouTube page. Because we've already started. No, you can pick your screen.
Awesome Radio Facebook page
Oh.
and YouTube page.
Okay.
Yes, so I will give me a chance to get that with you tomorrow. I'll let you know that. See not just
Hello.
yeah.
Well, too late for that.
All right, here we go. You do that. I'll give you a call. Thank you.
Then I can see you do it. 252.
Yeah, instead of gray.
Good evening. Good evening. If we could all come together.
Shall we bow our heads in prayer? God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far along the way, Lord, with your mighty might, you have led us into the light. Keep us, O Lord, in the path, we pray. Eternal God, we thank you again for allowing us to assemble here tonight. We thank you, dear Lord, for every house that is represented here tonight. We realize, Lord, that we can't even make a noise unless your presence is with us. So we invite your Holy Spirit, dear Lord, that we might continue to discuss the things that needs to be discussed. We thank you, Lord, for all you have done and all you're going to do. Keep us and guide us. Keep us in perfect peace, that we will keep our minds stayed on thee. And dear Lord, let us be vigilant and have an understanding what is going on in this world today. We don't want our rights to be taken away from us, dear Lord. There are many things going to be discussed concerning Project 25. We pray, dear Lord, that you would be with the speakers, that they might do and say those things that are helpful to us, and that we might go out back into our community to spread the good news, to know that we are being attacked. And we thank you for all you've done. Bless us, guide us, keep us in perfect peace, that we will keep our minds stayed on thee. In Jesus' name we pray. Let us all say amen. Amen.
Thank you, Deacon Fields. I've never felt so under tall in my life. My name is Crystal Chambers, and I'm the incoming president of the National Council of Negro Women, Greenville Pitt County area section. I will get these acronyms together in my head. And so welcome. Thank you for being here this evening. We are so happy to co-sponsor along with a host of partners, but mainly Red Wine and Blue. We are also thankful for our other partners who are listed in the program. Many of our partners were on the panel, attended our weekly meetings, and made financial contributions. And so if we could give a little round of applause to all of those who have put this event together, who worked tirelessly. It's been a busy time, but there's been a lot of things that have been happening. And so I am grateful for this opportunity to be here and to be able to talk about Project 2025. The purpose of this event is to provide an opportunity so that we can discuss issues that are directly impacting our lives. Based on feedback from the last Project 2025 forum, we're going to discuss the following three areas: health, the environment, and employment. And note that we've only hit 6 topics, and yet the span of that document is broad. And so I encourage you to get on the Red, Wine, and Blue website and check out their digest of all of the issues that are impacting us, so that as we have our conversations with our friends, family, community members, that we can engage them intelligently on the issues of the day. Are there any elected officials in the room? Judge Hazelton is in the house. Thank you. So now I would like to recognize my dear big brother, colleague, Dr. Lathan Turner. Dr. Turner is missed on ECU's campus, but even as he is on this new phase of his life, he is now the executive director of the National Association of Minority Mortgage Bankers of America. Retirement is the work that you choose to do, right? But it was a blessing to still have him in our community, engaged as ever. So thank you, Dr. Turner, for being here.
Good evening, everyone. Certainly a pleasure to be with you this evening as we continue the dialogue, as mentioned by my esteemed colleague, Dr. Crystal Chambers, a force to be reckoned with on the campus of East Carolina University. We did a lot of collaboration during my time on the campus, and I'm just so very happy to know her and to know of her work. She's another person that you should Google and learn about the work, the important work that she has done and continues to do. But we again are very happy to have you with us this evening for the continuation of the discussion on this important topic in 2024 as we discuss Project 2025. I'm not going to stand before you long to say much because our panelists are so esteemed as well as chosen to be here tonight to share in their particular areas. We would like to also welcome any persons who are online streaming and watching us this evening. We're glad to have you with us this evening as well. So without further ado, so that we can stay on task and stay on time, because we know that your time is very precious this evening. I'd like for our panelists from my right to my left to please introduce yourselves this evening. And then you see the areas, if you do not have a program, you see the areas, or if you have a program, you see the areas of expertise that they will be sharing tonight. For those who may not have a program, we're going to be looking at, as mentioned, government jobs, the environment, and healthcare. And so the panelists will introduce themselves in that order. And we will begin with Sister Diane Taylor.
Good evening. Can y'all hear me?
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. I am so grateful to be before you again, talking about Project 2025. Just a quick summary for those of you, if you did not catch our first session a few weeks ago, we talked about the history of Project 2025 and how it really dates back to the 60s. This is a nonpartisan event, and understand that both sides, both Democrats and Republicans, have what we call a document to help with the transition of power. So the idea of having a written document or a transition of power is not new. If you think about your own organizations, we call it strategic planning. We call it innovative leadership. We call it all kinds of things. So the idea of it is not what's troublesome. In 2015, the Heritage Foundation, which is comprised of 100 different organizations, mostly conservative. The difference is that this plan was created with their input. So oil companies, for example, had an opportunity to say what they would like out of the EPA or not. For example, just to get pharmaceutical companies had an opportunity to say that they don't want us to limit how much money we can pay for diabetic medication, for example. So the difference in this document is who comprised it, who came up with it. So in 2015, it was called a mandate for leadership. And that was right prior to our 45th president, I won't say his name, 45th president took office. And 2 years into that presidency, 64% of this document had already been implemented. So one of the things that I like to make sure that individuals realize is Project 2025 is not something futuristic. It is something that is a living document, 944 pages of changes that you can look not too far away from here at ECU's campus and other UNC campuses and see that there's no longer DEI departments. There's no longer diversity, equity, and inclusion being talked about on that level. Thousands of students lost their scholarships almost immediately last year when UNC made their decision about DEI. So we're not talking about a historic document that never came into play. What we are talking about is how we can stop it. And so that's the purpose. The purpose is for us to understand how it was created, why it was created, and encourage everybody to get out and vote. So particularly tonight, I was asked to speak about how Project 2025 affects federal and state jobs. And so I'm gonna stay in my lane now. Now I'm getting in my lane. The main portion of Project 2025 when it comes to federal employment is to terminate up to 1 million federal jobs and workers by dismantling federal agencies. The first thing that it talks about is budget cuts, privatizing agencies. I'll give you an example, like when we privatized prisons, for example. So we went from having state-run facilities to having some that were privately owned. So that's just an example of privatization of agencies. The second part of it is to make public unions illegal. So a lot of individuals, particularly in North Carolina, depending on the industry that you're familiar with unions, and why they were organized in the first place was to help workers to feel like they had some say in their daily activities at work. So what that looks like is eliminating TSA, transportation, the TSA department. You go, I guess the easiest way to describe it is when you go to the airport. Right? So we all know TSA when you go to the airport. DOJ, the Department of Justice, FEMA, and when I think about FEMA, I just almost cry to think about what would happen if they didn't have FEMA right now in Asheville. So we talk about Western Carolina and all of what has happened, the devastation that's happened just within this week. So the idea of not having FEMA is just extremely scary to me. And living here in North Carolina, I don't have to discuss that with you either. You know that we have natural disasters that sometimes require us to have that federal assistance, not just financially, but boots on the ground. Also talks about the civil service. So most of you, when you think of civil service, I would say you probably think about our male women and men. Right? Well, currently, if you want a civil service job, you take a civil service test, right? And then you are eligible for a certain type of job. Well, if they eliminate the civil service, they plan to change it, whereas it would not have that system, and it would require people to not just take specific tests for those jobs or not, but then we wouldn't be able to see if it was equitable distribution of said jobs. And then it cuts federal workers' pay and benefits. Veterans Administration, I don't know who among us would not want our vets to have good health care, but it's a part of the budget cuts. They want to restore IQ tests and aptitude tests. And every time I read that, it just reminds me of how they use that for us not to vote, right? And then they want to dismantle the Department of Homeland Security, right? The Department of Education, and EPA, which we'll talk about in just a minute, the Environmental Protection Agency. And when I think about particularly Black and Brown people, another troubling one to me is dismantling HUD, which is the Housing Urban Development Organization that's responsible for fair housing throughout our country. All of these things are a part of massive budget cuts. The idea is that they would cut the budget tremendously and then therefore lower taxes. That's how it's phrased in terms of what the benefit of it will be. So I'm gonna end it there because there's a lot to digest, and that's just one topic. And I'm gonna kick it to my colleague so that she can talk a little bit about the environmental aspects of Project 2025. And after Reverend Dr. Joyner speaks, then it's my understanding that we'll kick it back to our moderator.
Good evening. My name is Brianna Howard. I'm a student, a senior at East Carolina University, biology major, and I'm here on behalf of Democracy NC as a campus liaison. But I'm really focused into environmental justice efforts. So I know a little bit about the environment. I know I look young, because I am. So I just want to start out with a couple of facts before I jump into Project 2025. African Americans are exposed to 21% more air pollution than the overall population. The percentage of African American children suffering with asthma is nearly twice that than white children, and their death rate is 10 times higher. African Americans are 3 times more likely to die from particulate air pollution as the overall population. And extreme heat events cause more deaths annually in the US than all other extreme weather events combined. So talking about Project 2025 and how it affects the environment, it really is a threat to the EPA because they want to, out of 900 pages of Project 2025, 150 are about how to destroy the environment. So I thought that was a really crazy fact. And this project would strip away our rights to clean air, clean water, and a healthy planet. It would trade these basic freedoms to help polluters profit. So not only would it destroy our environment in Black and brown communities and other environmental justice communities, but they would profit off of it. So they are also not only trying to dismantle the EPA and removing established environmental regulations to protect us, but it's also trying to push other countries outside of the US to kind of join forces and also step away from it and show them, hey, you can make a profit. So this is why you should do it. So not only just our country, but other countries. So this is a worldwide thing. Project 2025 was spearheaded by political leaders and it would also promote the drilling and the drilling and development in places where we've protected, like national parks, also turning back the clock on renewable energy. They also help some of the acts that they're trying to dismantle. They address the big climate change issues and safeguard our endangered species. So that's another thing that really touches my heart because I'm a part of the Meherrin community. And so we really want to protect our animals. Let's see. Speaking about like in North Carolina in particular, we see there's a lot of hog farms in that area. So there's a lot of CAFOs. So we're suffering with polluted air and water and people facing the impacts of stronger hurricanes due to climate change. And Project 2025 would mean more air pollution, more contaminated water, and even more extreme weather, heat waves and storms like we just saw. These threats will hit the hardest in places like North Carolina, Georgia, all the southern states. And it's kind of interesting that those are where majority Black and brown people reside. So I think that it's our responsibility to not just sit back and watch, but that God called us to protect our environment and to stand up and speak up. The poor and vulnerable and the future generations need us to speak up now. And so what I think we can do first is pray and ask for wisdom, and then also tap into some of the community organizations that you see that are doing things like Democracy NC, like NOTRA, like North Carolina Conservation Network. You can even partner with some researchers at East Carolina University who are willing to do research in your area. Like me, I'm in my area in Ahoskie, North Carolina, where we're doing research on the Enviva wood pellet plant. And so East Carolina and other UNC school systems, like they're able to do, like get grant money because they're typically the ones that they trust. And we can do research in your area and boost. We'll try to, I guess, try to bring more looking for the word. I'm so sorry. Looking for more awareness. So more awareness to your town, to your area. And so just get educated, advocate, and let's make change.
For presenting. I am happy to be here. Thank you, Sycamore, for opening your doors. Sycamore has always been a historical leader, all the way from First Street, and has always opened their doors to challenge injustice everywhere. I remember B.B. Felton and the whole push. So I'm excited to be here to talk to you about agriculture project 2025. It's literally sad to see a system trying to be designed to dismantle the lives of people in such an open way. The agriculture bill is the second largest to the military bill. And if you think about it, what would have happened to us in the last couple years if we didn't have SNAP, if we didn't have the USDA and the monitoring around food to make sure that we had access to fresh, affordable food in the pandemic? What would it have been like? And to have a system that would be so unconscious that would dismantle that. I mean, this is huge, because if you take food away, who can survive? And if you only make food for the privileged, who can survive? And so we farm in Canita. We feed 2,000 families a week, and those 2,000 families do not have to stand in line and wait for food. That food is delivered to them. And that food is grown by a community of people that look like us. And that is a way that we educate our children, that we sustain our communities, right? And so, and these privileges are coming because of opportunities that we have from the USDA, grants, and other opportunities that we have to help our community, because who knew how to grow food better than our community, right? Our grandparents would call it an indictment for somebody to come and teach them how to raise a garden, right? And so this plan is trying to dismantle the school feeding program, summer feeding program, and trying to take that whole system away from us. And climate control, when you look at what is already happening to the environment with the management system that we do have, if you take that away, this make our third time in Canita that our 25-acre farm has been flooded. The third time this year. And we planting again. What would happen if we take every governing body away from fossil fuel and other things so they could do exactly what they want to do? And it's hard enough for us as farmers to grow now. Look, this extreme heat and flooding is not an act of God. It is an ignorance of Project 2025. And we need to be clear on that. And if we don't stand up and stop this by voting to make sure that this project dies in November, that we have to make sure that. And so The second biggest bill is agriculture. And even with that, the agriculture budget have not been passed. And if you put somebody in there that not only willing not to pass it, but to wipe it out. And we're just reestablishing, minority Black and brown farmers. A Pigfoot lawsuit that Eva Clayton filed, and that lawsuit was passed and got defunded, and this year just got funded, and over 30 years they finally got their money. We got to keep fighting, right?
Right.
We literally have to keep fighting. And let me put this mic down. I'm a preacher. And so, but I'm telling you, this is no time to be passive. 2025, this process, what we don't know is how much of this have they already put in the pipeline, right? So by the time we find out about it, a lot of this stuff is already there from, the other 4 years. We can't afford another one. And so agriculture, we have got to fight for all of this. Because one of these policies violate every policy.
So we want to thank our panelists for sharing, introducing, and challenging, really, all of us to do more in these areas as we learn more and more about what Project 2025 is and its long-term effects in a short term. And when I say short term, I mean that going to the polls in a month, in just over a month now, to vote is going to be really, really important. And so we heard a lot tonight from our panelists so far. We're going to hear from them again because we have some questions for them, of course. But we heard about things like risks and threats that are out there when Sister Taylor talked about the challenges under the government piece and, really what's at stake. I believe in your bag there is a sheet that outlines, if you have not had a chance to look at everything, and I think that the vast majority of the country has heard something about Project 2025, correct? But you see several bullet points there that emphasize what may be at stake. And we heard about the protections that are at risk that were mentioned by our speaker when it comes to the environment. And it's just beyond me to imagine some of the kinds of freedoms that we currently have that are at risk to be lost. And then finally, under agriculture, and I really like Reverend Joyner's statement when he mentioned we're talking about dismantling the lives of people. Okay? And I would challenge you to look around the room at your sisters and brothers that are in the room and look at all of the pleasures that we enjoy in life and the things that are at risk for us, and how this policy or these planned activities will affect the lives of people, our children, education is at risk. Access to so many parts of education are at risk. And so there are a lot of pieces in here. It's not just one that, if we do this, then the others are all right. It's a total package kind of thing. How do we sustain our communities? And then the final challenge that was mentioned was to persevere. We've got to persevere through the challenges that are out there and the challenges that are coming. And so knowing that, and we heard a little bit about this from each of our presenters, but I would ask our presenters to take a minute and tell us one thing that we can do, one thing as individuals that we can do when we, beyond just voting, because if push comes to shove and the election results favor one particular candidate over another, and the people who helped create this document, then there are going to be challenges, right? So what is one thing that can be done now over the next few days that you think will be helpful to us as citizens? Sister Taylor, we'll start with you.
I would say that one of the things that we need to do is to be accountable for getting other people to vote. So we tend to preach to the choir, if you will, in terms of the individuals that choose to educate themselves about this issue. And oftentimes we're also those people in our family that they say, who do I vote for? Right? Because they assume that we have taken on the responsibility of learning about our candidates, learning about the issues. And so people look to us to give them guidance. And so I would ask that we each not just know that we're going to vote, but be accountable for getting 10 people to the polls. And I think that encourages us to do more than just take care of ourselves in our own homes. This is a community problem. This is a state problem. This is a federal problem. This is a national issue. And so what we really need to do, and I would encourage, is that instead of just taking myself to the polls, I intend to fill up my car a couple of times and make sure that individuals I know are that I've done all that I can do to get them to the polls.
Let's share a ride. That's excellent. Yes, Steph.
So I would just say education and spreading awareness, because there's a lot of people that really just don't know. And so I feel like, I think education would be one of the best things to do. I think partnering with, getting people to come with you as well, but also educating them on the issues that are happening, not just worldwide, but just like in your community. Like go online and look up some things that are going on in your community. So you make it personal so that they're like, oh, wow, this is what's affecting me. And so I would think education would be key.
We have to remember, right? How many remember the CDCs, Community Development Corporations? Anybody remember when we used to have those?
A few hands.
Anybody remember when what caused it to go away? 2016, the election. Anybody remember that election? What happened? Tea Party.
Oh, yeah.
What happened when the Tea Party took over? Anybody remember Billy Ray Hall? Right? What did they do? Within 1 month after the election, what was cut? North Carolina CDCs. Across this state, over $1 billion cut. All of those jobs cut. Housing, community development corporations, right? You got to remember, if it happened then, it can what?
Happen again.
If we don't do something, we didn't vote. And we haven't gotten them back yet. So we have to remind ourselves to remember, right? And this could set us back. And so we just have to remember there's some evil people out there. And if they get in a place, they're going to do evil stuff. And it hurts. I had a lot of friends lost their jobs, lost their complete careers in 1 month and one flash of the pen, right? He who has the ink has the power. We better keep the ink. Other thing I would encourage you to do, I would encourage you to learn how to grow your own food. Right? I would encourage you, get a raised bed, get a garden, and grow your food. And be intimate with your food, right? How many grew up with gardens? I know I did. That was 17 of us. My father won't go into no grocery store. So we have to do self-preservation. But remember, it happened one time. If you think they're joking, look at the past. It was 1 month after election. And I think that Billy Ray Hall and that whole office were dismantled. And that money was put somewhere else. So come on, guys. We don't want to relive that, right? So vote. You know, I want you to, get one of them old obituaries and everybody but the person dead. Go through all of that list. And I'm a pastor, those obituaries got sometimes 500 people on them, right? Get your family obituary, go down that list, and tell them you ain't dead. And the only way I can't get the vote is that winner, but the rest of y'all got the vote.
Don't vote.
Right?
Right. One of the things we're reminded of as we hear Reverend Jordan talk about that is that, there's old school philosophy, but there's also modern technology, right? And so we should not have an excuse for whatever it takes to remind people to call. One of our dear church members called me yesterday. They were assigned to call members to make sure that we're registered to vote and that we're going to vote. And so the use of technology today is something that is very critically important in this process of encouraging people to go out and vote. But we know that still tactics like what Reverend Jordan also, they work. 6 degrees of separation, somebody that knows somebody else that knows somebody else. And we can't just say that it applies only to our young people, that our young people are not voting, our young people are not aware. I think our student representative here would argue with you that things are being done on campuses across the country to encourage young people to get out and vote. They have a whole precinct on campus for students to vote. Students, yeah, thank you. Yes. Students don't have to walk any further than right there on campus to the student center. It will be set up for them to go in and vote. 20 some odd thousand students. And I'm thinking that there should not be an excuse. Now, if they early vote or if they vote absentee, that's different. So we are encouraging that in all ways possible. Sir, are you raising your hand? Okay, I thought so. Okay, all right. Do you want to come up and get a microphone so everybody can hear you? Right quick, please. And let's welcome him. He says he's a representative with the Harris campaign. Is that right? Okay. You want to grab this microphone right quick?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much, Reverend. Thank you so much, Fellowship, for having this great event. I just wanted to stop by and say it is imperative that we all learn about Project 2025 because it is disastrous for our communities, especially our rural communities, especially coming off of this hurricane that we luckily dodged in this part of the state and that so many are suffering in the western part of the state. So we pray for them. I'm here today because, and reason why I raised my hand is because the discussion was about what we can do today to affect the election. Well, I'll tell you what we can do today. Every 30 doors you knock in your neighborhood is a vote. Every 300 people you call on the telephone is a vote. This election is going to be as tight as you can get it, especially here in North Carolina. You know, Joe Biden only lost by 1 percentage point. That's a couple of votes per precinct in this state. So we can get together in this last 30 days and knock on doors, make telephone calls, and do what we have to do. I know we're going to have a Souls to the Polls operation to assign people up and bring them to the polls on election day and early voting. Get involved. That's what it is. Not good enough for folks to just go to the polls and vote. You have to get involved. You have to knock on doors. You have to make telephone calls. You have to sign up to bring people to the polls. Those are the three things that win elections. And we're not going to win this election and defeat this evil Project 2025 without us getting involved. And I just wanted to throw that into the conversation. And thank you all so much. I have materials in the back of the church for you to have on your way out. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Our office is at 3005 Stantonsburg Road, over down the street, if you want to stop by. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. And we want to make sure that we give equal time. If there are representatives in the audience that need to speak on the election, are there any other representatives in the audience that's working with a campaign or working in particular with the presidential campaign? Since we heard from one side. All right. Opportunity going once, opportunity going twice. One thing I would like for our panelists to share a little bit, and it's been referred to, and it's an environmental issue, but we had heard about our friends in the western part of the state, and by the grace of God, that hurricane did not come in this direction. We're so prone on this side of the state, as we know. And many people were surprised about what happened with the path of the hurricane going up into the mountains and et cetera. But we heard a little bit about FEMA this evening and the role of FEMA and what could possibly happen if the platform for Project 2025 moves forward and there are cuts and et cetera. But can we just share, I don't know if one person or all three want to share on our panel, but the role of FEMA and what could happen if we didn't have FEMA? Basically, if we didn't have FEMA, what do you think would happen in that particular area? So anyone that wants to comment, please.
Well, I will start by saying that, FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So that's what it is. And already the current presidential slate has given $20 million in recovery aid to Western North Carolina. And I think about, I was on a Zoom call this morning at all of the infrastructure that will have to be rebuilt. It will take approximately 10 years of support to rebuild the western part of the state. There are 7 towns that no longer exist. They have mudslides. They have roads that have been destroyed. They have bridges that no longer exist. They just opened Asheville yesterday, and you still can't travel all the way through it. And so the devastation is monumental. And when I think about how we, even in the East, have had our our EMS workers go from here all the way over there to assist them, and I would want them to do the same if it were us. And the idea of not having federal aid to feed people, as Reverend Joyner said, there are no grocery stores. They still don't have electricity. And I don't have to tell y'all about the devastation of storms. We've had our own share. So you know what happens when you go days and weeks without having power. The idea that, their children aren't in school, right? We ain't even got that far yet. Right now, they're still finding bodies. There are 1,000 people missing. And so the idea that we've already supported this effort through FEMA with $20 million, and to think of what the needs will be in the coming weeks, months, and years. And the idea of that assistance not being there is just uncanny to me. The idea that we actually have to fly in water right now with helicopters. Well, the fuel for those helicopters is FEMA money. Right. And so when you really start thinking about all of the different pieces of not having a machine being able to say, this is how we take care of disasters and the people that are dealing with them in our country, is very scary to me.
When you think about FEMA, and we're not that far away from it ourselves. When you think about administrative structure to make this happen, a lot of people would love to jump in and go there now. It'll be total chaos. We have FEMA to say, no, we're not ready for this level of volunteer work right now. Right? So that's the body, the governing body. I was just on a call that said that this is going to take up to $50 to $75 billion to restore. And not even counting what FEMA is already doing in other areas. So when we went through with FEMA last job in the region is what they're doing to get the community at a level that they can finish the recovery and being coached by FEMA. So FEMA won't leave until that area is able to sustain themselves. Think about it now. If you get rid of that, and whatever you put in place, if it's not broke, don't try to fix it. And with this group, I don't know anything that they haven't broke. So I think that, we need this. People are suffering, they're hurting, and we need administrative structure to help us to structurally move through this. And we need administrative structure to help the community to get back to a management system, and then to coach them on how the new management can look, because it won't look like it was before. And so I can't imagine not having FEMA.
Y'all hit all the points on the FEMA thing, absolutely. But one thing that what you mentioned and brought to my mind is that I feel like we also need to have a way where we can hold these policy makers accountable, because I feel like if a couple people go to jail after seeing disasters happen and not listening to scientists, and not, because one of my friends, actually, I came from a clean air conference these past couple days, and she actually predicted with the GIS system where the impact of the hurricane was going to hit, where the next disaster. She didn't know it was going to be a hurricane. And so she did that a month ago. And so if we were able to make have some type of plan where we can hold these policymakers accountable for the things that they do, I feel like then we'll see some real change there.
Very good, thank you. Yes, that administrative structure, as mentioned, is the saving grace at this time. And we want that to stay in place because we cannot predict the future, but we pretty much know that something is probably going to happen. I'll be with you in just a few minutes. Questions from the audience, if you'll hold that. We'll be right with you. There was another piece on here that a couple things, and then we'll take some questions. But bullet number 12 on your sheet, for many of us sitting in this room, mentions cutting Social Security and raising the retirement age. Now, how many of us are ready for Social Security to be cut? Okay, y'all won't answer me out loud, but I know that you're thinking, look, don't mess with Social Security, it's working. Benefits and those kinds of things. And even for our younger population who are going to be part of the system in the future. But we're hearing a lot about pieces like that. But what are your thoughts about the possible changes in Social Security? Reverend Jordan, we'll start with you, being a...
I'm getting my Social Security. Please don't touch it. Okay, I look forward to it.
Absolutely.
You know, taking care of our ancestors, taking care of those who have labored to make things work. That's about the rudest thing you can do, you know? And to ever think that, I mean, there shouldn't even be no thought of cutting it or doing anything. It should be a thought of how we increase it.
That's right.
And to make it more sustainable, right? And so we got to think on the other end, you know? So we have to literally, I mean, we have to think on the other end. We got to think about how we make it better, not cutting it, not getting around it, but yes. And so I think that for those of us, you know, we have to challenge those thoughts by the thoughts of saying, let's increase it, let's make it better, and let's make sure that it's here for generations unborn.
Absolutely.
And I think that we got to go there, and we need to stay there. And those that have robbed that system, violated that system, and that percentage, that 2% that live on 90% of all the wealth of the world,
that's right.
We need to go after that and make them pay their due share.
Yeah.
Just got my AARP card, y'all. And I was some kind of happy about that because it's not 10%, goes like 15% to 20%. Yeah, I was like, what? Okay, I need these discounts. But in that short amount of time, I have seen Social Security age go up 3 times in my lifetime. So I remember it being 55. I remember it then being 60. Now it's 62 for a minimum and 70 for your maximum. So I've been working since I was 16 years old. And every check I had, there was a piece of it that went towards Social Security. And I just told y'all about my AARP card. So I don't know how much money I put in there, but I feel like I should be able to get something, you know, out of it. So I think sometimes there is a misconception that Social Security should be deemed by the federal government. But the reality is it's our money. It's our money. So I would just like policymakers to keep in mind that this is not federal money. This is literally taxpayer money, and it should be distributed as such.
Absolutely. And I like the thought process of planning from the opposite end of the things that are proposed here. You know, if it says cut Social Security, then really we should be in the ears of policymakers on how to increase Social Security. And yeah, those areas where we can make that kind of impact. You know, oftentimes, you know, we may think that we're a little bit challenged in talking to lawmakers and those kinds of things, but there are all kinds of opportunities. And I'm sure if some of our elected officials would share that, you know, they'd like to hear from us. They'd like to hear, give them a call, an email, or whatever you have thoughts about things. Now, will it absolutely come to fruition? It may or may not. But the fact that you express a concern that you have is very important. If we just discuss it right here, or if you just discuss it, you know, amongst your spades playing group or your line dancing group or whatever, and it doesn't go anywhere else, then of course it's naturally not going to get to the proper places that we need to make effective change. And so we want to find those ways to continue to be creative, to reach out to those so that Social Security continues to be in place for all our citizens moving forward. The other piece that we'd like to hear from our panelists right quick, and there are many educators in the room and possibly virtually with us, but cuts to the Department of Education are alarming. They are truly alarming to me as an educator myself, but they are truly alarming about the effects, the long-term effects on our children, our Black and brown children in particular, already facing challenges, right? And I know Sister Taylor probably has a whole book that she could write about this particular topic. But what are your thoughts about the possibility of major changes, cuts, elimination of the Department of Education in this country? To our panelists.
I think this is when the document got really real for me. I read the whole thing. It's 944 pages. On page 124 is when they start talking about education and cutting Head Start. And I think I was just taken aback by the thought of eliminating programs like Head Start that literally were created to help balance disadvantaged children by the time they got to public school. And then when you get to around page 136, I think, is when they started talking about the draft and how if you attend a public school, that you would automatically be in the draft. But if you attend a private high school, then you opt into the draft. So it's some real life scary stuff. The idea of not having any kind of balance with the Department of Education. You know, when I think of Brown versus, you know, the Board of Education and it being overturned. I mean, it's just, we are living in Project 2025. You know, this is real life stuff that you can see happening. You can see even in our state the number of Head Start programs that have been eliminated in the last 5 years, which were primarily in rural Eastern North Carolina. And so these things should hit home for us because they are very, very real. And the idea of, I don't have a problem with private schools, but I do have a problem with unequal schools. And I do have an issue when you're taking already strained resources from public education and reallocating them to specific private schools with vouchers. And I do have an issue when North Carolina still ranks 47th for pay for our teachers, but yet we want to eliminate funding from already strained and underpaid and overworked teachers. So the document is very specific in asking to eliminate the Department of Education. It's very specific about the programs that it wants to cut. It lists out specific programs, and you're right about the free and reduced lunch. That's a part of that piece of the Project 2025. And so these are real life issues that affect our children every single day.
Thank you. Any other comments on education?
You know, it's very dangerous when you decide, to touch children. Jesus said to his disciples, "Suffer not, but let these little ones come unto me, for such is the kingdom of God." And then he put a warning in there. He said, better for you to have a millstone tied around your neck and thrown in the depths of the sea. Now, I know some good swimmers, but they ain't gonna do good with a millstone. And then when you move that further, the most precious people in this world, I put them even before preachers, is those who teach our children.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody knows that the ACEs, adverse childhood, not just impact you as a child, it impact you for the rest of your life.
Entire life.
And to think of anyone that could be that evil to take away that, that's, and I encourage all of us, if you're not volunteering out of school, you need to do so. I mean, if you don't do nothing but just go out there and take some water or something. And I encourage every church to have an after-school program that our little babies don't go home to shut, lock, key. And so to think of touching early childhood development, good Lord. Yeah. That's beyond. I mean, if that don't make you vote.
Yeah, I think that's very scary to think about. I think about something my great grandmother told me. Something they can't take away from you is what you have in here. And so this is something that they're trying to literally take away from us because they realize that they need a more strategic plan to even stop us from the progress that we want to make. So it's really scary to think about. I was sitting here listening and trying to think of maybe even solutions, but I don't even want to think about solutions to this if it happened. I don't want it to happen. So I think that we definitely need to get out and vote. And education is important. It's extremely important. It's something that, and even thinking about DEI, what they're doing, what they're trying to do is erase history. They're trying to erase history so that they are able to do some of the things that they did back in the past. And we need to stop that. So I'm going to put it down.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for your perspectives. It's important.
And please vote for the superintendent of schools of North Carolina. Please go down that ballot. Please. And I'll say this, when people come up and join church at Kanita, I want them to go to heaven, but I want them to register to vote. So I want to make sure
That's good.
that we put both of those papers in front of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
We want you to have both of these rights. And so, if you love Jesus, you got to vote.
Thank you. that's an important piece also. And I'll take this moment to remind you that in your bags, I believe tonight, you should have a voter guide to help you, because when he mentioned the department superintendent of education in North Carolina, I didn't hear a lot. I didn't see a lot of heads nodding. So hopefully you know about what's going on with that particular position. If you don't, please read about it. And I believe there is an event coming up in about a week where those candidates will be here in Greenville. And so that's another opportunity for you to go out and hear their positions about education in North Carolina. Some of the ads on television scare me, truly scare me. But judge for yourself. Go out, Google, get that information, attend these information sessions and things that are coming up in our communities here in just a little bit. In the time that we have left, I do want to entertain if there are a couple of questions, brief questions. We'll take those at this time. I recognize the hand that was raised earlier. Brother Bobby Backus has the microphone for you.
Thank you. Thank you, distinguished panel and guests, ministers and politicians. I'd like to present a question that will give me more knowledge in presenting and forwarding the issue. I think tonight is about voting and bringing us up to date and aware of Project 2025. Perhaps there is, perhaps the candidates will bring this up in various ways. Is there a impact analysis that's been done on how it would just affect the mortality rate of the African American community if you cut these many jobs, the economy, the food you're looking at? I probably wouldn't be as tall as I am if it wasn't for the summer lunch program. I probably wouldn't be, well, some days I think I'm intelligent, at least Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I probably wouldn't have the knowledge that I have if it wasn't for Head Start. So is there a solidified analysis, impact analysis, that it would create more food deserts, that it would, that this 2025 and the damage that it has already done? So the numbers and all across the board, when you enter college, you have that's my first question. The second question is, when you enter college, you have usually a debate class, and they give you a subject like, if you take away the responsibility of the federal government and give them back to the states. So if FEMA was dismantled, then the emergency response will be all on North Carolina. Where would we have $57 billion over a 10-year period of time to address a major emergency? So I think, do we have some tools like that? I'm thinking of a radio show right now we're about to do, me and the co-host. Do we have some more tools and resources you can give to us?
So we've been doing research with access to fresh, affordable foods, agriculture. So, and we have been putting these foods in food desert. We have seen, and we're working with ECU Health to do those statistical analysis. We've seen, in some cases, an 85% increase in health because of access, right? And when you talk about social economics, just a mere fact of people being able to get along enough to produce a product and then to consume that product, put that product in the market, and reinvest that back in themselves. We've seen 100% impact on communities being able to do that because they're learning how to eradicate food deserts, do the social economics, put food on their tables, food in the market, and reinvesting, and have taken almost 2,000 people out of line waiting for food. Take that away, and the numbers reverse.
I learned at the Clean Air Conference yesterday that you can go to your health department and ask them for figures in their annual report, and ask them if they included environmental justice communities. So like the one we're living in now. And they can tell you like those numbers that you were asking for. Also, earthjustice.org is a good website to look at. I'm actually looking at one of the things that they put out, what Project 2025 would do to the environment and how will we respond. Like it tells you like a very detailed response. So there's some websites out there. And then even the North Carolina Conservation Network, that's another website I would look at. They're always putting out good information.
Good evening, and thank you to the panel for taking your time to come out. My question would be directed to Dr. Joyner. You mentioned about school volunteer. I do work in the school system, and I would like to say that I see so many, also worked in the school nutrition program, and they really, really need volunteers. I am part of ESS.com as a substitute, and today alone we had 15 teachers that called out. So my question also is, how can we reach the parents of the children, okay, that are getting the free lunch? If the parents had any idea what is going on and they had to all of a sudden pay for the lunch, they would go out and vote. So that is my question. How can we reach the parents of the children that are getting the free lunches? I've seen so many lunches going in the trash. Children are wasting food. They're not aware that it's going to be taken away from them. So we need to shake up the parents.
So thank you for that question. Our students on the farm challenge our superintendent because he said the same thing, that our students are not eating the vegetables. And one of our students says, I know how to get them to eat the vegetables. And he said, they're not eating the vegetables. He said, I know how to get them to eat the vegetables. And he said, well, how are you going to do it? He said, can we bring out vegetables? And the superintendent almost opened his mouth again. He said, so you don't trust me then, do you? And he said, okay, we'll let you bring your vegetables to a school. And they carried the same vegetables, their carrots, their celery, their things that they were growing from the farm, and they announced that they were going to have this vegetable tasting thing. It was the same vegetables that they had on the cafeteria process. Those students came and ate up all of those vegetables. And the cafeteria person asked, why don't you eat these vegetables? You know what they said? I know who these vegetables are. I don't know who those vegetables are. And that's why the process of this whole piece with the USDA, the feeding program now of purchasing produce from Black and brown farmers, you know, the farm to school, USDA grant, to put that money, to put those vegetables in the school system. And we are having a better outcome of students eating their own vegetables, because you know what they look at when they know they're eating their vegetables? They look at the bottom line too. And I think that we got to personalize our food. And they eat it. We do summer camp 10 weeks, they eat it, right? So I think that we really got to make food intimate again. Food is not magic. It just don't pop up on the table. And so, and I think we got to do that. So it'll work. And I thank you for what you're doing in the cafeteria and nutrition.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, we applaud you for your service in the schools. So thank you for that. Let's give her a round of applause. Yeah, I really like that piece that you're talking about with regard to the USDA and the partnerships, and even classes that can be taught in the schools on how to spend money, so that the young people understand the cost associated with losing lunch at school, as you say, as compared to what you have and what you can do to supplement or to just teach them about the cost of living. So many of our young people, just assume mom, dad, they're making the money, they'll buy this for me, they'll buy that, but they don't understand the cost associated with living these days. Were there other comments about the education piece?
I was gonna kind of piggyback off what he said, because when I was in middle school and high school, we had farm to school to healthcare. And so we had gardens at every school system. And not only that, but we also taught the older generation how to grow their food without straining their backs or knees, like putting potatoes in a bucket. And then when it's done, you just dump it over, and there you go. So I feel like if you put like you said, if you get them included on the process of food, where it comes from, how much work it is to put into it, and even maybe like some cooking thing. I think they got rid of a class where homemade. Yeah, they got rid of that class.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like well, I grew up in the country, so we had a little bit more than the people in the city, I think, because we got a chance to do stuff like that. But I feel like that should be incorporated in schools, because then it allow and even having the students maybe be a part of that process of cooking, and like, oh wow, they helped me. I mean, this is the food that they made. This is how they did it, and it kind of just boosts the morale, I think. So just including the students in on the process. And then you were saying like parents, I think also bringing the parents in and showing them the different programs that you have at the school. And I would say probably do it when they have to come pick up progress reports or report cards and things. Yeah, invite that as well. So just making it more, because I don't really see that much of a community anymore. Like like now, as when I was growing up, I really saw it. Like as a kid, I couldn't say whatever I wanted to say to my teacher because I knew my parents knew them at the church or something like that. So I feel like if we build that community again, you'll see more change.
Building community, creative ideas. That's great. While you're getting ready for your question, I think the young man, did he leave? There was a link I was going to tell him about. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities has a really nice executive summary about Project 2025. So there are a lot of resources out there online if you Google the impact study that he was asking about. So that's one resource. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening.
Hey.
I have so much to say about some of everything you all have been saying, but my focus is on the agriculture and the education. I am actively involved with one of the elementary schools.
Thank you.
And because I am able to see the children, how they're coming in, you can pretty much tell those that are well taken care of and those that are not by the way they come in. So the eating part, the wasting of the food, I want to find out how, you mentioned, Reverend Joyner, about a program or some type of funding or something for farmers. Food. Okay. I would like to know how me or anyone else would be getting involved in something like that to introduce it to the school that we're in. Me in particular, or maybe her school, or all the schools. But where do we start with that? If we know the funding is available, where do we start to get some type of assistance to make the parents aware as we're talking about, because the children, do I want to say, I don't want to use a negative word, but they are caught in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we start to get that help, to introduce it to the parents? Because it probably most likely be from per school, this school, that school, a person per school. So where do we start with that? Is I making it? Okay. So that's what I'm trying to say on the educational side and the agricultural side. I like the idea about the cooking and the growing. I too was raised on a farm, and I know all about that, back in the day. And yes, that is no longer existing, but we want to get it back into the mindset of the parents so that the children can be involved. That would help them do better overall, because now they have something that they really like. They can go out and play in the dirt. You know what I mean? That's my comment.
Well, first of all, I think 5-year-olds are the smartest people in the world. 5-year-olds are the smartest people in the world. Our farm was started with 5-year-olds, and they are genius. Most of the stuff we have on the farm now is because of 5-year-olds, and they don't mind eating dirt. They don't mind losing their shoes in the dirt, and they don't mind being dirty, and they don't mind sleeping all the way home. And if they grow it, they'll eat it. And so, but the farm to school grant's a USDA grant, and I can get with you more on it. And there are farmers here in this area in Pitt County that we partnership with, that your wonderful school system here is an advocate for farm to school. And so it's a brilliant program. And we meet with farmers, with Interfaith Food Shelter, and not only do they do farm to school, but they do farm to churches. And so, we love a one-stop shop. Think about if you came to church, got a good sermon, got a good box of food, had a telemedicine, and you got out of here in 45 minutes and you got all of it, right? That'll make you real excited, right? So
2 out of 3.
So I'm advertising. No, but yes, farm to school really love. We just had Raffi conference in Rocky Mount. Our USDA person, I'll give you her number, and the local person here. I think it'll be brilliant to have it at every school. Raised beds at every school. Growing produce is, you can't beat it. If you're 70 years old in here, you grew up on a farm.
Yep.
There's also a grant that's getting ready to come out with the Southern Environmental Law Center. It's the EPA EJ Thriving Communities grant making program. I would suggest you look into that as well. There's a lot of money that Governor Roy Cooper just gave North Carolina to help with these efforts. So I'd look into that as well. It's the Southern Environmental Law Center, and it's called. It hasn't come out yet. The only reason why I know is because I spoke to the lawyer yesterday, but it'll be out in maybe a month or so. It's called EPA EJ Thriving Communities Grant Making Program. Yeah. It's like $250,000, $150,000 that can go into some of that. Yeah.
I'd also like to encourage you to encourage young people. There are some wonderful opportunities in our colleges and universities, especially our land grant institutions. They are receiving multiple millions of dollars as scholarships for students to go to college to major in agribusiness. So it's the combination of learning about agriculture, but also the business end of agriculture. So they get really a double hit in terms of their degree and the possibilities. So I know my alma mater has a program for that. And the reason I know that is because the Department of Agriculture came this Saturday passed and gave them $2.8 million to put into that program. And so, again, a simple Google will help you to know who the land-grant colleges are, land-grant colleges and universities, and some of the programs that they have available. And that's just one particular area. I know that we're talking about multiple forms of education, but sometimes the things that we don't know have these opportunities available, and students are going off to college, and they may be pursuing degrees that are not going to get them the types of jobs that they want in the future. But on the other end, you have these opportunities if we just kind of work with the mindset of students to know that there are opportunities available for them, and they can go to school tuition free. Okay. Brother Backer said we have a last question. We'll take one more question. I know that I see two hands, one in the rear.
He's talking about.
Okay.
The name of the grant that you just spoke of?
The one I just talked about?
Yes.
Okay, I'll look that up for you right quick. I have it up here. It's the USDA. It's under the USDA, the same thing, Department of Agriculture, and the degree is the Bachelor of Science in Agribusiness. So it's agribusiness. You're welcome. And Dr. Chambers.
So while we're talking about higher education specifically, what are the impacts of Project 2025 on higher education? And let's think about that in the wake of the failed FAFSA rollout this past summer.
You can answer your own question. I'm like, you the one with the answer. Let's talk about. Give the answer, Crystal.
I think, Dr. Chambers, if you want to give a short. Yeah.
Imagine no Pell Grants. Imagine no federal financial aid.
Mm-hmm.
It would all be gone. The Title III, which covers our HBCUs, gone. The impact, that financial impact, which is saying so many of it's direct aid to our students, it just would be decimated. This past summer, they created a new improved free application for financial aid. The rollout was so poor. In the previous administration, there was a gutting of the Department of Education. So this is not a new thing. They've been taking away from agriculture. Right now, FEMA is out of money because of what was already taken out of its budget in prior administrations. But there are students who were accepted into college and could not attend because they did not get any financial aid in time to be able to enroll. So it's already happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's time to stop it now.
And a portion, thank you. A portion of that process is Edgecombe County is a tier 1 county. And so we've, for the last couple of years, been working on agribusiness process. So we just received a substantial grant to do agribusiness from a community standpoint. That is for early childhood development as well, but also for a collaboration with the Edgecombe County School System, the community college, and A&T in North Carolina State. That those students can get a full ride free through the community college, land grant college, and walk out and go to the USDA and get a good job, debt free, straight from the community. If you cut that out, we couldn't do that, right? And so, I mean, it may not sound like a lot, but it's feeding a lot of people and it's giving our community hope. And we don't need to be cutting that. We need to be doing more.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah.
How aware are the high school administrators, how aware are they of that opportunity for those kids when they graduate?
Yes. I work with our superintendent. We work with our superintendent. And we believe by the time our students reach the 9th grade, they should know what their future want to be. And so
Who is it, the counselors?
the counselors know,
School counselors.
our superintendent know, and our school board know because they approved it. And so we want to put that curriculum in every summer camp in our county. We believe that there should be no child without a summer education that support the school education. And it's our partnership with the educational system in our county. And so, and we ask every preacher to preach it on Sunday morning. Let that be your text at least one Sunday. And we'll send you some food boxes.
We'll take that. I think he makes a really good, important point. And in Pitt County, Dr. Steve Lassiter is the interim superintendent here, and he is very welcoming. And I think that, as we said earlier, we need to reach out to people in charge of certain offices around. I'm sure he will be glad to entertain any questions in that area and get you the answers about, whether it's being shared, and if so, to whom is that information going? So, yeah.
Is it, this is my last question, is it then, having said what you just said, then is it conducive for those of us who are, you don't have to be in the school system, but we have an interest to go to Mr. Lassiter?
Yes.
To bring these issues up to him about having it distributed in the school at an appropriate time.
Yes.
And for God's sake, don't leave the parents out.
Right.
Even at 9th grade level.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Those parents.
Absolutely. School board. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. School boards are very, very critical to this connection between general citizens, parents, interested persons, and the school personnel. So that's at least two different opportunities, the school board and the office of the superintendent for each area.
And school board is on the ballot. School board is on the ballot.
I said this was going to be my last comment.
Thank you, because we're almost out of time.
Okay, I'm done. I'm done.
Okay. Okay. All right. We want to thank you. Thank you to our panelists this evening. If you join me in a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you for being here tonight. Take the information that you learned tonight and share it with others in the community. Again, we're a month away from a major change in our country, and we don't want to sit on the other side and complain. We want to sit on this side and make a difference. Ms. Lewis we have a drawing for some door prizes, so don't run out yet, because after she finishes, then on your way out, there is a meal to go that you can pick up as you walk out tonight. So we'll hear from Ms. Lewis and her associates. So I think if you have those purple tickets, you want to pull them out.
Okay. Some more boots. Everybody might be a winner. Is there anybody who did not receive a ticket who needs a ticket? You certainly need one. Oh. I was gonna walk up there to her, but I didn't want to be in her camera. Her and then the gentleman with the red. Behind the young lady in pink. Oh. And Tanya, I gave her. All right. So we, again, thank you for coming out tonight. We do have a few door prizes that we will give out. Yes, each bag will have one. They are random and randomly drawn. Let's see. Ticket number, I think we're all 654022. 022 is the last 3 digits. Oh, is this, no? She was moving quick? Uh-huh. We'll let her find her ticket. It might be the winner. No? All right, 012. Okay, come on, get you a prize. We'll expeditiously do this. 024. 024. In the hallway, all right. Tell her we'll bring her something out there. All right. 020 at the door in the flower shirt. 020. All right. 020. Oh, good. All right. We're getting a lot of twos. 003. All right. 026. All right. 010. Ah, see? You put it in the atmosphere. 015. All right. 008. Okay. Make sure she give them too. Oh no, or whatever. I think she gave them choices. You have the gentleman in the back. He got it. Okay. Thank you. 011. All right. Might be another in the same group. 019. All right. They're coming your way. All right. 018. 018. I see your hand. No. No. Okay. 001. All right. Okay, 021. All right. That's a lot of press. 005. How many more we got? Okay, I think we have about 4 more. 014. 014. 3. 017. I know, right? N39. 006. It's a very good number. Y'all got the hot side. Oh, tell me. 027. 027. Okay. Got a couple more. 007. Yay. And I think we have one more. 028. Yay. And is that her? I believe that is the last one. All right. Oh, you have one. All right. Did I just call this? Yep, 2-way. Yep. All right. 013. 013. No, it's prison. Okay. 023. All right. Girl, give me a line. Okay. She probably like, I got one then. Mm-hmm. NCNW. Did she say yes or no? She good? All right. Are you doing closing remarks?
Yeah.
All right. I hand this back to Dr. Turner. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to everyone. Again, we want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Great information that was shared. So the challenge to you between now and the election, and even beyond the election, is to continue to educate and to reach out to the communities around us and encourage people to become more actively engaged in this election process. If all hearts. Early voting. If you're planning to early vote, that begins October 17th. October 17th. So lots of great options. If all hearts and minds are almost clear, just a moment.
So early voting, first day of early voting is October 17th. Absentee ballot application deadline is October 29th. The last day of early voting is Saturday, November the 2nd. And election day, of course, is Tuesday, November 5th.
Great. All right, we are dismissed, and please remember to pick you up a meal to go as you exit. Thank you.
I know.